You woke up today, did everything the same, drank your coffee, went to work, returned home, and yet felt that something is missing, something you cannot explain. A void that is not hunger, not sleep, not tiredness. It is as if your life were moving, but going nowhere. And I will tell you something now that perhaps no one has ever had the courage to tell you. This void you feel is not by chance. It has a name, a cause, and a responsible party. And worst of all, this person who stole your purpose is not a stranger, not someone from the outside. It is someone who eats at your table. It is someone who sits on your couch, who knows your fears, who knows your plans, and who, consciously or not, is suffocating the calling that God placed inside you. And today, in this video, you will understand exactly how this happened, why God allowed it, and mainly, what you need to do from now on to retake that which is yours by spiritual right. And perhaps you are thinking, no, this is not possible. The people close to me love me, they want my well-being. And it may be that they truly do. But there is a huge difference between wanting your well-being and wanting you to grow. Because when you grow, the dynamics change. When you awaken to your calling, the balance breaks. And many people who say they love you actually love the version of you that is controllable, predictable, that offers no risk. The version that obeys, that yields, that annuls itself. And when this version begins to die to give place to the true version, resistance appears, and it appears from where you least expect it. Before continuing, I need you to understand one thing. If this video reached you, it was not by chance, it was not the algorithm, it was not luck, it was guidance. So stay with me until the end, because every word that will be said here was prepared for this moment of your life. And if in the middle of the way some phrase touches deep in your heart, leave a comment saying, I received it. This will serve as a spiritual milestone of the day you decided to react. Now let us get to what matters. Have you ever stopped to think why so many people around the world, especially here in Brazil, reach 40, 50 years of age with that feeling that life has passed and they did not truly live? Research conducted with Brazilians over 35 years old shows that more than half feel they are not living their true potential. It is not a matter of money. There are people with full accounts who feel empty inside. It is not a matter of family. There are people surrounded by people and yet feel alone. The problem is deeper. The problem is in the purpose. And when we speak of purpose, many people think of something grand, like changing the world, becoming a missionary, opening an NGO. But it is not that. Purpose is that which makes you feel alive. It is that activity, that calling, that mission, that when you do it, time ceases to exist. You enter a state of presence so intense that you forget to eat, forget to look at your cell phone. It is there that God placed you. It is there that you should be. But you are not. And the question we need to answer is, why? The answer will bother you, but the discomfort is the first step of liberation. There is a pattern that repeats in the life of almost every person who lost contact with their purpose. And this pattern has three very clear symptoms. Pay attention to see if you recognize yourself in any of them. The first symptom is chronic procrastination of what truly matters. You do everything. Wash dishes, clean the house, answer messages, solve others' problems. But that project that is in your heart, that dream that wakes you up at dawn, that calling that you know is yours, that one you push to tomorrow, always to tomorrow, and tomorrow never arrives. And do you know what is most painful? You know you are pushing it. You know you are running away. But it seems there is an invisible force holding you. A lock. A block that is not only psychological, it is spiritual. The second symptom is the constant sensation of living someone else's life. You look at your routine and think, this here is not me. This job is not mine. This dynamic does not represent me. I am here, but my soul is elsewhere. And when someone asks you what you want from life, you freeze. You do not know how to answer, or you answer with what others expect to hear. The third symptom is the most subtle and the most dangerous. It is when you begin to sabotage yourself every time you are about to advance. You receive an opportunity and make an excuse. You have a brilliant idea and convince yourself it will not work. You are almost taking the step, and out of nowhere a crisis appears, a problem arises, someone needs you urgently. and you drop everything to solve the other's life while yours remains stationary. If you identified with at least one of these three symptoms, I have news. Your purpose did not die, it was stolen. And the thief is not far. They are near, very near. But before revealing who this person is and how they operate, I need to explain to you why the theft of purpose is so common in Brazil specifically. We live in a culture where family is everything, and that is beautiful, that is pretty. But there is a dark side that no one speaks of. In a culture where family is the center, any movement of individuality is seen as selfishness. If you want to follow a different path, you are abandoning the family. If you want to prioritize your dream, you are being ungrateful. If you dare to say you need space, you are rejecting those who love you. And thus, in a subtle way, guilt binds you. It traps you. It keeps you exactly where others want you to be, not where God placed you. And the worst is that this dynamic begins early. It begins in childhood, when your parents chose your profession, when they told you that an artist starves, that a musician is not a profession, that a writer does not pay bills. And you, as a child, absorbed that as absolute truth. And you carried this false truth for 20, 30, 40 years. And today, when the void tightens, you no longer even know where it came from. But I know. And now you will also know. And here is where things get serious. Because when we say that someone stole your purpose, the first reaction is to think of malice, envy, bad people. But it is not always like that. Sometimes the person who suffocates your calling does so without realizing it. Sometimes they do it out of love, a twisted, possessive, controlling love, but which in their head is love. And that is exactly why it is so difficult to identify. Let me give you a very real example, very Brazilian. Imagine a woman of 43 years. She always dreamed of working with crafts. Since childhood, she made incredible pieces. Everyone praised her. But her husband always said, "That doesn't make money. Focus on what is serious." And she kept focusing. She focused so much on what was serious that she forgot what was alive inside her. 20 years later, she is in a job that pays the bills, but that kills her soul a little each day. And the husband, sitting at the dinner table, does not even imagine that he is the main obstacle between her and her calling. He is not evil. He did not do it out of malice, but he, with his repeated words over the years, planted a belief in her mind. You are not capable. Now think of another example. A man of 52 years who always had the gift of the word. He speaks and people listen. He counsels and people change. He always felt he should teach, preach, lead. But his family, the one that eats at his table every Sunday, always treated this dream as a fantasy. Stop traveling. You are a bricklayer, not a pastor. And he swallowed it. He swallowed it so many times that the dream went down to his stomach and turned into gastritis, turned into insomnia, turned into depression. Do you perceive the pattern? The person who steals your purpose almost never uses violence. They use words, they use looks, they use silence, they use doubt. They plant a seed of disbelief so small that you do not even notice. But this seed grows, creates roots, takes up space, until one day you look inside yourself and no longer find that flame that moved you. And now I need to tell you something that will completely change the way you view this situation. God knew this would happen. And he allowed it. Not because he is cruel, not because he abandoned you, but because there is a spiritual principle that few people understand. Purpose must be desired with intensity. It cannot be handed over on a silver platter. It must be reconquered. The Bible is full of examples of this. David was anointed king, but before sitting on the throne he had to flee, hide in caves, be persecuted by Saul, who ate at his table, who was of his family, who was his father-in-law. Joseph received the dream that he would be great, but before reaching the palace, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, those who ate at his father's table. Moses knew he had a calling, but before liberating the people, he spent 40 years in the desert, taking care of someone else's sheep. Are you understanding? The theft of purpose is part of the process, but the error, the great error, is thinking that the process is the final destination. It is not. The desert is not your dwelling. The cave is not your address. You are passing through. And this video is the sign that the passage is coming to an end. And there is something I need to explain to you here because many people confuse it. When I say that God allowed it, I am not saying that God wants you to suffer. I am saying that God uses suffering as a tool of refinement. Gold is only purified in the fire. The diamond is only formed under pressure, and purpose, true purpose, only solidifies when it is tested by adversity. The person who tried to steal your calling, without knowing it, was preparing you. They were strengthening spiritual muscles that you will need when you reach where God wants to take you. Because the place God prepared for you demands a version of you that does not yet exist, and this version is only born in pain. But attention, recognizing that pain has a purpose is not the same as accepting pain passively. On the contrary, from the moment you understand the game, you stop being a piece and become a player. You stop being a victim and become a protagonist. And that is exactly what we are going to build now. If this is making sense to you, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell. Because all the content we bring here is designed to help you in this journey of reconnection with your calling. And share this video with someone you know needs to hear this today. Sometimes a simple share changes a person's life. Now let us go to the most important part, the solution, how to retake the purpose that was stolen. The first step is honest identification. You need to look around and recognize who are the people who, directly or indirectly, are suffocating your calling. And attention, this does not mean you will fight with these people, cut relations, or make a scandal. No. To identify is not to attack. To identify is to protect. When you know where the poison comes from, you stop drinking it. Think of the people who are closest to you, who discourages you when you speak of your dreams, who changes the subject when you share an idea, who makes you feel small, incapable, inadequate, who overburdens you with demands that are not yours, preventing you from having time and energy for what is yours. You do not need to answer now, but keep these names in your heart, because the next step depends on this clarity. The second step is the rescue of the inner voice. Neuroscience has already proven something that spirituality has taught for millennia. When a person is systematically devalued, their brain literally changes. The neural connections that sustain self-confidence weaken. The prefrontal cortex, which is the region responsible for planning and decision-making, reduces its activity. In other words, when someone repeatedly tells you that you are not capable, your brain begins to believe it biologically. It is not your weakness. It is science. But the good news is that the brain is plastic. It can be reprogrammed. And the most powerful way to do this is through two combined practices, the declaration and the minimum action. The declaration works like this. Every day upon waking, before looking at your cell phone, before speaking with anyone, you will look in the mirror and say out loud, I have a purpose. It is real. It is mine. And no one can take from me what God placed inside me. Does it seem simple? It is simple. But the daily repetition of this declaration begins to reconnect neural circuits that were deactivated by years of devaluation. Studies in positive psychology show that consistent affirmations increase the activity of the prefrontal cortex in a few weeks. The minimum action is the complement. It is not enough just to declare you need to act. But it does not need to be a giant action. On the contrary, the minimum action is the smallest possible step in the direction of your purpose. If your calling is to teach, record a 2-minute audio teaching something you know. If your calling is to create, make a small piece, a draft, a sketch. If your calling is to help people, send a message to someone who is in need. The minimum action does not need to be perfect. It needs to be done. And it is here that something extraordinary happens. When you combine declaration with minimum action, you activate what I call the rescue cycle. The declaration changes your mentality. The minimum action changes your reality. And when mentality and reality begin to align, purpose resurfaces with a force you did not imagine still existed inside you. The third step is the most delicate and perhaps the most important of all, establishing sacred boundaries. Sacred boundaries are the limits you place between your calling and the people who try to suffocate it. And I use the word sacred on purpose because protecting what God placed in you is a spiritual act. It is not selfishness. It is obedience. In practice, this means learning to say no without guilt. It means stopping giving explanations about your dreams to those who never supported them. It means creating spaces in your routine that are non-negotiable, spaces dedicated exclusively to your purpose. It can be half an hour in the morning, it can be an hour at night, it can be Sunday afternoon. But this time is yours. It is sacred. No one enters. And I know what you are thinking. But what about the family and the obligations and the bills to pay? I understand. No one here is telling you to drop everything and live off a dream. What I am saying is that within the 24 hours that God gives you every day, you need to reserve at least a piece for that which makes you alive. Because if you do not do this, life passes by, the years run, and 10 years from now you will be in the same place with the same void, wondering where the time went. The fourth step is the spiritual reconnection with the source. And when I speak of the source, I speak of God. I speak of prayer. I speak of meditation. I speak of silence. Because it is in the silence that the voice of God becomes clearer. It is in prayer that the purpose reveals itself with sharpness. It is in meditation that you manage to separate your true voice from the voices that were planted in you by other people. Many people lost contact with their purpose because they lost contact with God. They replaced prayer with Instagram. They replaced silence with noise. They replaced reflection with distraction. And when we disconnect from the source, we disconnect from who we truly are. I am going to propose a challenge to you. During the next 7 days, set aside 15 minutes a day to be in silence. No cell phone, no television, no music. Just you and God. And in this silence, ask a single question. Lord, what is my purpose? And wait. Do not try to force an answer. Do not try to force an answer. Do not try to rationalize. Just wait. The answer may come as a thought, a memory, an emotion, a desire you forgot existed. But it comes. It always comes. And when this answer comes, grab it with everything you have, because this time you will not let anyone steal it. Now I need to speak about something that many people ignore. Forgiveness. Because as long as you carry anger or resentment against the person who suffocated your purpose, you remain tied to them. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. It is the key that opens the cell where your purpose is locked. And to forgive does not mean to accept. It does not mean pretending it did not happen. It does not mean returning to trust blindly. To forgive means to let go. It means saying, what happened, happened. It hurt. It left a mark. It delayed things. But it will not define me. I am greater than what they did to me, and my God is greater than any delay. When you forgive, something happens in the spiritual plane that science is beginning to understand. Studies in psychoneuroimmunology show that forgiveness reduces cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and increases the activity of the immune system. In other words, forgiving literally heals the body. Because resentment is not just a feeling, it is a toxin that corrodes from within. I know it is not easy. I know there are people who hurt you too much. I know there are wounds that are still open. But I ask you a question. Do you prefer to be right or to be free? Because the two things rarely go together. And purpose demands freedom. And let me tell you something about forgiveness that perhaps no one has explained to you this way. Forgiving is not an event. It is a process. It is not something you do once, and that is it, resolved. It is something you practice every day. There are days when you will wake up and feel anger again. There are days when the memory will return like a wave and knock you down, and that is fine. Forgiveness is not the absence of pain. It is the decision not to let the pain govern your life. It is getting up every day and choosing freedom, even when the prison seems more comfortable. And I will tell you something that perhaps sounds harsh, but it is necessary. As long as you hold a grudge against someone, that person continues living inside you for free. They occupy space in your mind, steal energy from your body, and pollute the environment of your spirit. And the space they occupy is exactly the space where the purpose should be. So when you forgive, you are not doing a favor for anyone. You are evicting an invader. You are cleaning the house so that the calling of God can finally install itself. Let us recapitulate the path. First, identify who is suffocating your calling. Second, rescue your inner voice with declaration and minimum action. Third, establish sacred boundaries. Fourth, reconnect with God in silence. Fifth, forgive to liberate yourself. 5 steps. Simple to understand, challenging to execute, but absolutely possible. And before closing, I want to share a reflection that changed my way of seeing all this. There is a difference between being late and being in God's time. You look back and see lost years. God looks forward and sees the prepared road. You count the opportunities that passed. God counts those yet to come. You measure your progress by the ruler of others. God measures by the transformation happening inside. Think of the people who most inspire you. Think of the great names who changed lives. Most of them only truly began after 40, many after 50, some after 60. Society teaches you that if you did not get there by 30, it is over. God teaches you that as long as you are breathing, there is still time. And it is not just any time, it is the right time. Because everything you lived until now, every pain, every disappointment, every person who tried to knock you down, all of this becomes material. Material to teach, to inspire, to transform. Your pain is your credential. Your scar is your diploma. And when you finally assume your purpose, you will realize that nothing was wasted. There is a phrase I keep in my heart, and that I want to leave with you. The enemy does not attack what has no value. If someone took the trouble to steal your purpose, it is because it is worth a lot. If someone invested time and energy to make you doubt yourself, it is because your calling bothers hell. You are not weak, you are a target. And being a target is proof that you carry something powerful. And I will tell you one last thing before closing. The fact that you watched this video until here is already a sign. It is a sign that something inside you is waking up. It is a sign that the purpose they tried to kill is resurfacing. It is a sign that God has not given up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. I want you to do something now. Go to the comments and write what is the first step you will take starting today. It can be a declaration, it can be a minimum action, it can be a boundary you will establish, it can be a forgiveness you will grant. The size of the step does not matter, the direction matters. And if you know someone who is living this situation, someone who lost the sparkle in their eyes, someone who is suffocated by close people, send this video to that person now. Sometimes God uses a video to do what years of conversation could not. Your purpose is alive. It is waiting for you. It is calling your name. And the only person who can answer this call is you. Not your husband, not your wife, not your father, not your mother, not your pastor, not your boss. You. God does not make mistakes. If He placed a calling inside you, He also placed the capacity to fulfill it. The capacity is there. The strength is there. The time is now, not tomorrow, not next month, not when circumstances improve. Now. Because God does not work with the calendar of men. He works with the disposition of the heart. I believe this video will be a watershed in the lives of many people watching. And if it was in yours, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you do not miss any content. We will see each other in the next video. And remember, you were chosen, not by chance, on purpose.